Are you ready, Ryan? You ready for episode 100? Let's do this. Hey, welcome to the 100th episode of Just These Guys You Know. What's up, Ryan Parker? How you doing, buddy?
Yeah.
On today's episode, we are going to begin the dive. We're going to dive into the introduction of anger. Transforming anger to make it your advantage.
Kinda looks like Mike right there on the cover.
Oh.
Welcome back to Just These Guys. We got Ryan in the house today. We got Pastor Mike.
And we got Dr. Parker.
It sounds like we ran out of music.
We just did. It was perfect timing. 100, Doc.
Yeah.
Ryan, give us some words of wisdom.
Yeah.
What you got for us?
I got people.
Love God and people. There you go.
Yep, that's what this whole thing boils down to, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Love God, love people. So 100. I still am just blown away. Excuse me. Started to choke. It sounded like I started to cry.
Choking up over this thing.
100th episode.
Does it feel like 100?
No.
No.
It has just flown by.
That's why last week when you said, well, we're going to celebrate 100, I'm like, it feels like we just started. Why are we celebrating?
Well, I know. It really does feel like it, but we got to take a moment to celebrate it for, just a minute.
Now,
100.
What are we celebrating, though?
We're celebrating the fact that we're just getting started. We're celebrating the fact that we have made it to triple digits and that we ought to celebrate the little things in life.
I think I'm celebrating your consistency. 100 Tuesdays in a row.
Mm-hmm.
You've been here.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
100 Tuesdays in a row.
Yeah.
That's consistency.
Yeah. There's some consistency there.
That's
and
picking it up, laying it down, getting home, picking it up, laying it down.
And we managed to every single Tuesday come up with something that at least we think is worth presenting, is worth publishing. Yeah. No, it's been a lot of fun. And it really does feel like we're just kind of getting to understand how this works.
Yeah.
And how to create something that has value to it.
Right.
So yeah. No, it's good. I'm excited for what we're getting ready to do. Kicking off 2025 here with the book Transforming Anger.
Yes, the book Transform Anger by the Renewing of Your Mind.
Mm-hmm. Transform anger to advantage, because this is a whole different approach. At least I've not seen any books that come at anger from this vantage point, where what you're saying is anger is good.
Yes.
So that's going to take a lot of convincing for a lot of people who have never experienced anything good from anger.
And I think how this came about, just to be completely honest, like we haven't been over the last 100.
Yeah, why do that? Why start now?
Why say why say it? I've been lying this whole time. Now I'm going to be honest.
Episode 100, we're going to get real.
But when I got into anger management, I absolutely knew nothing.
Okay.
And I think that's what helped.
Sure.
And
it does help not to know the rules. It really does. That's kind of the way I approach ministry when it comes to leading church. I just don't know the rules. And so I don't pay attention.
Right. And when you don't know the rules, then you're not stepping into it, some sort of preconceived formula to follow or notion.
Exactly.
And when I was asked to take over the anger management program for this agency, I was in desperate need of a postdoc. And so I would have mopped floors, whatever. I don't care. Just I need the postdoc work so I can head towards my license. And this is going to really bug me the rest of the show if we don't do something about it.
I know. You need the headphones.
Can you hear it?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Can't hear it.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, if you can't hear it, you can't hear it.
Oh, I can't hear it. It's not.
Okay.
It's not bugging me.
Okay.
You can have these.
No, it's fine.
Okay. And tick. Go. You needed a postdoc.
Back from commercial break.
You'd sweat floors.
Well, they asked me to take over the anger management program, so I went to the gentleman who was running it, and I figured I would sit through, one or two to learn it.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be running the program, I need to learn it. And when I went in to the program, the gentleman who was running it, it was therapy, which brings a lot of kind of responsibility for the therapist, and it brings a whole layer of other kind of mental health treatment stuff. So you got to do an intake, you have to do all this research, history, you have to assign a diagnosis so that you can bill the insurance for the treatment you're about to provide. And then he ran it like group therapy. And so everybody sat around and did group therapy. And that's how he ran it. So with group therapy, you're done when the therapist says you're done.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So this was a non-ending program. And he approached anger from a scare tactic kind of approach. And his basic message every week was, don't be angry, you could kill somebody. Don't be angry, you can get arrested. Don't be angry. And he would bring in news articles about some domestic violence event where somebody got angry and killed somebody else or lit somebody on fire. And this was his whole approach. And then every month he would sit down with people who've been in the program for 2 or 3 months and do a review of their treatment. And it was like parole hearings where the client said whatever they thought they needed to say to get out of the program.
Right.
And he would, evaluate them and their progress and make determinations about whether or not they deserve to be out of the program. And I was frankly just appalled that this was going on. I was like, oh my God, this is, I don't know anything about anger management, but this doesn't feel like a way to run a railroad.
Doesn't feel like the right way to manage it. Yeah.
So I went out and started doing research on how to do an anger management program. And again, I didn't find anything that I thought I could put my name on. Mm-hmm. There were some that were run like 12-step programs where you had to admit you were powerless and you had to go through the 12 steps and then rework the 12 steps. And the powerless thing you had to admit is that you were an abuser. Mm. 12-step, I'm an alcoholic. 12-step, I'm a drug addict. 12-step, I'm an abuser. And I'm like, this approach doesn't seem right either. So I ended up just sitting down and saying to myself, what do I think would be a useful program to help people? At the time, the question was, how do I help people manage anger better so that whatever situation they got into that landed them in this program, the next time that situation arises, they're better able to handle it. Mm. And so my approach was more utilitarian. And I began to realize, I began to believe that people were having judgmental knee-jerk reactions to anger, that they didn't have the same judgmental knee-jerk reactions to depression or to anxiety or to any other emotion. Mm. It was just anger. And this whole concept that anger is a bad thing, and if you're an angry person, you're a bad person, I began to see in the literature and in the mental health treatment. And it crossed my mind, anger is an emotion, and we've got 7,200 other emotions. Why is this the only one everybody's picking on? And so I started to look at it from a utilitarian point of view. How is anger useful? Mm-hmm. I mean, if sadness and anxiety and fear and happiness and joy, if all these other emotions have a purpose, well, what is the purpose of anger? And that's sort of what launched the program, was a very different approach to let's accept the fact that every human being on earth has the capacity to feel anger. Yeah. And if that's the case, then one of two things is true. Either one, evolution said those species with these features move on and progress and procreate and don't die off. So anger made it through the evolutionary chain. Anger must be adaptive for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Bible says, I made you in my likeness. So if God made me in his likeness, what is the purpose of giving me this capacity to feel this particular emotion?
Yep.
And so that was the approach. That was the start of it all, was anger is a good emotion. And from that assumption, then what is its purpose? And then how do we use it correctly? Mm. And that's what launched the whole program and eventually the book.
Yeah. So it falls under the umbrella of self-control.
Yes.
Right? Because when I first read in the introduction where you say anger is good, I started to have a little bit of an argument with you. And especially where you said that God created anger. Okay, so I was like, really? Did God really create anger? Because then I started, going through my thoughts of like James 1:19 and 20 that
Sure.
says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry.
Sure.
And because it says that because this anger does not produce the righteousness that God wants. And so I was sitting there going, man, I have to go in there and prove Doc wrong. That God did not create anger, but he did actually create anger. As I mold my way through that and continue to consider it, he doesn't say don't become angry. He says be slow, under control. So when you start to feel that, man, just imagine, because this is what I'm experiencing myself as I've read through the book once. I'm back at the beginning because I want to walk through this with you and with everybody that's going to go along for the ride. And I have I have recognized that, man, when I actually take control. So it's all, again, it's the change of thinking. Mm-hmm. Cognitive restructuring.
Wow.
I'm getting on board, Doc.
25-cent word.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but as soon as I start to feel it, if I can, instead of it owning me, I can own it and make it positive. Do something good with it. Grow from it. Learn from it.
And to help the audience out who has no idea what we're talking about here, anger being a good thing, let's look at a completely different emotion, let's look at a different emotion, and you'll understand the concept of what I'm saying better. We have the capacity to feel an emotion called fear. Mm-hmm. And how do we know the word fear is correct for the situation? Why do we call it fear and we don't call it something else? And so this is the breakdown. If the threat is standing right in front of me and my heart is running 90 miles an hour, my adrenaline is flowing and my breathing is rapid and shallow and my stomach is gurgling and my eyes are wide, we call that experience in our body and our mind, we call that the emotion of fear. Now, if that threat is real, but I encounter it next Friday. So on Friday, I have to deal with a bear, mm-hmm. and I could die. But I have that same emotional experience standing here thinking about the real threat on Friday.
Right.
We call this exact same physiological and mental reaction stress.
Anxiety.
If the threat is not real.
Okay.
If I'm imagining it.
Got it.
What if bears came into town? Mm-hmm. I'm going to have the exact same physiological, emotional, mental reaction as I did in stress, as I did in fear. It's the exact same physiology, but since the threat is not real, we now call this reaction anxiety.
Okay.
So fear and stress and anxiety are labels that we give the exact same physiological and mental reaction. The difference is the location of the threat. So if the threat is in front of me, we call it fear. If the threat is on Friday, we call it stress. And if the threat is imagined, we call it anxiety. So this is the same thing when it comes to anger. Anger is energy and focus.
Mm-hmm.
Where we direct that energy and focus changes what we call it. So if I direct my energy and focus at trying to control you, then we call it anger. You call me a name and I start yelling at you to shut up. I'm trying to control you. I'm using this energy and focus to try to shut you down. So yes, we call it anger. But if I use that exact same energy and focus to control myself, then we may call it many different things. We may call it self-protection or commitment or gumption or follow-through. When I direct that exact same energy and focus at myself, we call it something different. So as the situation arises, we will experience this emotion. What we do with it changes what we call it. Does that make sense?
100%.
And so the emotion that we're all kind of hovering around, we loosely know as anger. But if I get angry about, what's going on in Washington, and I go out and I march to every single door in this town and try to convince the person at that house to vote my way on this upcoming issue, I'm committed. I'm invested. I have a lot of energy. We say positive things about the person because I'm using the energy in a way that I have control over and in a way that can be effective. But if I get mad about what's going on in Washington and I throw my television remote through my TV screen, pick up my TV and throw it down and then go kick my dog, it's the exact same emotion, but I'm using it in destructive ways, so we call it anger.
This is going to help a lot of people. Myself, maybe more than anybody. 2 days ago when we had our ice storm and we were all under the blanket of ice and trying to get our cars, thawed out and so that we could actually even just get in them.
Right.
I was out at my truck. I was taking a putty knife and I was putting it around the door, around the jam, the seal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Dawn was inside, staring out the window, watching me make this really foolish move.
Did she get it on video?
I don't think so. She's not. She should though. No, she should not. Hey! And so I got all the way up, and yanked on the door. Finally got it open. So my door comes wide open, but the whole seal stayed. So it's no longer on the door. It's up here. And then half of it is hanging. It's hanging down on the inside. And so, now I'm a little mad. Well, she wants to make sure that I realize what I've done. And so she steps out the garage door. She opens the garage door is coming up now. Now I'm standing there mad next to my truck. I'm looking at the ceiling and the garage door is coming up and I know what's coming. So she's standing at the back door, looking out through the garage and she says, "Smooth move, Jack." Now I could have just done what I just did. I could have just laughed.
Just laugh.
I could have just said,
Coulda.
"Thank you for noticing."
Hey, a little assertive irony.
But do you think I did that? I did not.
You did not.
I got to step away from the mic a little bit. You don't think I know what just happened? That's what I said.
Just in case you weren't paying attention.
And she just turned around, shut the door behind her, closed the garage door. And so in that moment, I got to thinking to myself, I could have handled this completely different and been completely okay. I could have just said, Thank you. Thank you. It's the big things and it's the little things. This is going to help.
Well, and there's a number of things in that equation where the appropriate application of anger would have been beneficial. And one is with the door. Just, I'm angry. I'm chiseling away. I ain't got time for all this. And I'm not slowing down and letting temperatures inside the truck heat up. And the second one is your just emotional experience of being frustrated and angry at what just happened, what you just did. Angry at yourself, angry at the door. Not that you did this, but now we slam the door and we throw the ice scraper across the neighborhood.
So you recorded this? You were there? You saw this?
So there's two ways that this book would have helped with the situation. And then when she had to, make a comment from the peanut gallery, your response to her, had you directed that energy towards the things you have control over, you could have responded to her in a different way and later been proud of how you responded to her.
Well, I could have been slow to become angry. I could have appreciated, Ryan. I could have appreciated my little helper standing at the back door, making sure that I saw what happened.
And at the bottom of it all, the most basic rule for all of this is...
That's right.
And I've got people.
That's it.
That's it. That's it. Now, so here's the deal. There's one particular, I got to find it. In the introduction. So go out, get this book right here. Get that book. Hopefully you can see it. Anger Management. Transform Anger into Advantage by Dr. Lance Parker. And here's in this whole introduction, my favorite. There's 2 paragraphs right here. So I'm just going to read them because this is what we all have the opportunity to experience as we go through this together. He says, what I propose is that you stop wasting your time trying to rid your life of anger or using the anger to control others or to validate your own misery. I suggest you come to understand the purpose of this powerful emotion and then harness that power to exert more effective control over your life, improve your relationship with others, and begin to actually feel better. And then you said this, ironically, when you use your anger in an effective manner to solve problems and resolve conflict, it's not called anger. It is called drive, determination, perseverance, resoluteness, resolve, seriousness, solidness, steadfastness, strong-mindedness, being strong-willed, tenacity, being unfaltering, being unflinching, being unhesitating, or being unwavering. It becomes your advantage.
Boom.
Boom. It's going to be awesome.
Whoever wrote that, pretty dang smart.
He's just pretty dang smart. 2025 is going to be awesome, Ryan.
You ready for the next year?
Right.
Woo!
Love God, love people. Awesome. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ryan, for being here today. Thank you, guys, for tuning in. We will catch you next week as we begin going through the anger management book, chapter by chapter.
I'm Mike.
I'm Lance.
My name is Ryan. They say by Parker.
Oh, yeah.
We'll catch you guys next week.